How you doing, man?
Doing good.
Oh,
How are you doing?
All right. So we have episode 16.
16.
A Feast with the Beast, and we're lucky enough to get Gavin Jobe to join us, and he's got a great plan. He came up with the whole dish, everything that we're cooking, and we're going with the same theme. One thing that we do here on this show, we don't show everybody how to cook what they learn everywhere else. Like, we don't do brisket, we don't do chicken, we don't do all that regular shit. We want to show people how to do like hors d'oeuvres and all the stuff that they really, some people don't realize you can do on the grill.
Yeah.
But you can do anything on the grill.
Yeah, super versatile.
So, look, Gavin, whoever doesn't know, he is one chopped. Plus, you were in the 40 under, what was that? 40?
Full service restaurant, 40 under 40 a couple years back, like
Awesome.
a rising star deal.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'm a chef, man.
Cool. So, and you're self-taught?
Yeah, self-taught. No culinary school. Learned everything from cooking, reading, watching TV,
Right.
but mostly just cooking a lot.
Awesome. So, and I was in his restaurant, Meribo.
Meribo.
I'm looking at your fiance. I'm like, I'm screwing this up.
The butcher of names.
Meribo. And I had his pork belly, the best pork belly, and I'm not bullshitting either. The best pork belly I've ever had.
Oh, I really
it was
appreciate
exactly the way it was supposed to be. You could taste the meat, you could get the crunch on the top, and everything else was like butter, just melted away.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, man. We worked a long time.
I was scared too because I was
worked a long time.
like, I got to try this. But all right, do you want to tell everybody what we're cooking?
Yeah. So today we're gonna kind of take a trip to Spain. We're gonna cook some Spanish food, which I think goes really well with grilling. A lot of Spanish food utilizes open flame cooking, and you get a lot of smoky flavors. We're going to cook some stuff that I love to eat that maybe a lot of people haven't cooked on a grill before.
Okay.
The first thing we're going to cook is some octopus.
David.
We use a lot of octopus at Meribo. This is a Spanish octopus, actually. This is about a 4 to 6 pounder. And it can be a little intimidating for a lot of people because it's kind of tricky and not a lot of people have worked with it before. But it's actually a pretty simple ingredient to work with once you get some basics down. At the restaurant, we use a technique called sous vide cooking to tenderize our octopus, but you can just as simply do that just with a pot of boiling water at home. So we're going to just kind of break it down. The first thing we do with an octopus is we're going to take the head off. It's right where all the legs come together. You'll actually see the 2 eyes right here. We're just going to cut the head off, and that's going to go back over there, and then we're going to break this down. We like to cut it up some before we boil it so that it's a little more even cooking. So obviously 8 legs, we can just go ahead and bisect that right down the middle. And then we're going to do the same thing again. So we'll end up with 2 leg bunches basically. And octopus, because it's, saltwater animal, and the way octopus kind of live, they're naturally very salty. So when we boil this, we don't want to add any salt to the water at all. At the restaurant, we would take these, put these in either like vacuum seal bags or Ziploc bags with just some peppercorns. We actually use a little bit of bacon fat to add more smoke. But if you're at home, you would basically put these into a pot of boiling water, and you're going to go about an hour at like a medium simmer. Bay leaf, peppercorn, maybe a little garlic, not much else.
Do you take that ink sac out?
Yeah, so the ink sac is in the head. You should be good to go. It's actually in this little chunk right here. That was the beak, actually.
Oh, okay.
That's the mouth of the octopus.
Okay.
And so that part, it'll just pop right out. It's kind of just a little.
Doesn't matter if it's in the boiling water?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So we actually went ahead and prepped some at the restaurant, and this is what you're going to end up with. You're going to end up with a tender octopus afterwards that we cut into portions that we're going to be able to grill and use for our dish today. So
now,
this is a couple tentacles worth right here once it cooks.
Right.
You can see that it was this long, and as it cooks, it's going to lose a lot of moisture. You're going to end up with a much smaller piece. But now it's nice, it's firm, it's not chewy at all. It's got a nice texture, and it takes really, really well to the grill.
So I've ordered octopus a couple times in restaurants, and it comes out and it's like a rubber band.
Yeah, so you got to be careful. I said an hour. It is going to be, it all depends on the size of the octopus and stuff like that. If you have an immersion circulator at home, it's something a lot of people have these days. They're not expensive anymore. You can get them for about $130. We sous vide ours at 163.5 degrees for 4 hours.
Okay.
And then if you're boiling it, it's a little less precise. You're going to have to go a little bit by feel. A good way to be able to tell is something, take like a toothpick or a skewer, and if you can push it in and it doesn't give you a ton of resistance, you can just keep pulling it up and testing it. And it's going to feel rubbery if it's rubbery. You'll be able to tell.
Okay.
And then once it starts to tenderize, at that point you can shock it, cool it off, dump some ice in that water, stop the cooking, and then you can go ahead and grill it a little bit later. Okay. So we're going to do a couple things with our octopus. We're going to do a Spanish Romesco, which is a really awesome sauce made of charred onions and peppers and garlic. And so we'll go ahead and get started on that, because that's something we need to get a few things on the grill working. So we're just going to take an onion right here, and because this is all going on the grill, it doesn't really matter that we have that octopus on it.
So your tattoo.
Yeah, so I have a tattoo right here. It's actually a quote from a guy named Briat Savarin, who was basically the world's first, I want to say, like, food writer, gourmand. He had a very, very wealthy aunt who passed away, and she said, if you take, in her will, if you take my last name, which was Savarin, you can have all my money, because she didn't have any kids. And so he said, yeah, I'll do it. And he got this massive inheritance, and he basically traveled around the world at that point, and wrote about food. And this is like late 1700s, early 1800s, and he's the first person to really write books about food and service and all that. And this is my favorite quote of his. It says, to receive guests is to take charge of their happiness the entire time they're under your roof. This is a quote about hospitality. And it's very cooking is about taking care of people, making people happy, making people feel at home and comfortable. And it's one of the most intimate things you can do for people.
That's true.
So right now what we have here, just 2 tomatoes, an onion, some red bell peppers, and we're going to go ahead and get those over to the grill and get those charring up.
The way or carry some?
We're just going to throw a little bit of Spanish olive oil on this. And it doesn't have to be Spanish olive oil, but while we have it, might as well. And no seasoning on any of this stuff yet.
Oh, if you're watching this right now, please share the feed. We want as many people to see this feed as possible, and more people that share it is the more people Facebook will also share. So share and like, share and like, share and like.
Okay, so we're getting this directly over some hot coals here. So we want to get some nice charring on this. And on this stove, on the grill here, we actually have some potatoes that we have just blanching off that we're going to put on the grill in a few minutes. That's going to be something else that goes with our octopus dish.
Those onions already smell good.
I know, they are. I'm already hungry.
Oh yeah, I love the way onions and tomatoes and peppers smell on a grill. You can check these potatoes. Yeah, those are probably ready to come off actually.
You can put that on anything.
Alright, so we'll leave that open for a minute so they can get some charring on it.
Okay.
And then we can come back over here and get the rest of our Romesco set up.
I'm going to tell everybody good morning now because I'm not going to interrupt the interview. Good morning, everybody.
Right, the other thing that we're going to be doing is announcing the Grillby's Chopped winners.
Yes.
There's 2 of them, and I'll tell you what, it
The
was
2
very...
finalists.
It was so close that I didn't know who I was going to choose until like 10 minutes before I did a live feed last night, and I truly was not sure. And I thought I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Well, so our peppers and stuff are grilling. We're gonna go get those potatoes, toss those in a little olive oil, and get those grilling as well. This dish is gonna come together pretty quick. What's great about octopus is once you have it cooked, the actual grilling time is very minimal. And then the same thing with the rest of this dish. It's going to come together very quickly. Great for entertaining. Great for having groups of friends over. So we just par cook these potatoes some. hit these with a little more olive oil, and then we're gonna season them really well with just some nice coarse salt, a little black pepper. We'll go straight on the grill with that.
Whoa.
And don't be afraid to get a little charring on these. That's going to really add to the flavor of that Romesco. You want some of those kind of charred, burnt flavors going on. It's going to add a lot of richness to it. So we're getting there on all that.
All right, cool. That looks awesome.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just start the base of our Romesco here, and then we can dump everything else in. We're gonna take about 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. Just get kind of a little rough chop there. And then Romesco is a classic Spanish sauce. A lot of times it'll have bread or like hazelnuts, something like that to thicken it up. Because we're in the South, I like to use pecans. I think they add a really nice flavor, and it gets a really great texture in there as well. Need a little bit of that.
You used Spanish olive oil on the veggies, right?
We did, Spanish olive oil. So about juice a half a lemon. And then we're gonna use a little sherry vinegar. If you don't have sherry vinegar, this is Spanish vinegar. You could substitute like red wine vinegar. Sherry vinegar just has a little bit more of a distinct flavor that really goes well with these flavors. And then a little bit of basil. We have just some nice fresh basil. A little bit of parsley. And this can be done in a blender or a food processor. I like a blender, it's a little finer. Because we have the nuts and stuff in there, you don't want that to be like super chunky. Nice pinch of salt. Let me go check on these vegetables. We're probably getting pretty close to taking those off.
Cassidy's checking, don't worry.
Alright, so certainly these tomatoes are good to go. They're nice and soft. And you can see how soft and charred we have those. Peppers are looking good.
Somebody asked how you liking those tongs.
They're nice. I'm glad that they're long because this grill's hot.
Precision gripped.
Our death grip printers.
Right.
Yeah, they're grabbing everything well. Potatoes are getting some color on them as well.
And the potatoes were really pretty much cooked when you just
Yeah,
kind
they're
of churn
cooked.
them
We're
up a
just
little
getting
bit,
some
right?
color, getting a little bit of that grill flavor on them.
Right.
And we have those on some indirect heat, so we're not cooking them a whole lot more.
And those are fingerling potatoes
Yeah,
in
these
case
are some
anybody.
little fingerling potatoes.
Do you want to cover that or not cover it? Or
Yeah, we can go
doesn't
ahead
matter?
and cover that.
Okay, here, let me put that through with you. All right. Cool.
And now we're going to take all these nice toasted, roasted vegetables, just kind of get them down in there. And we're going to use olive oil.
They smell good too.
Oh yeah. And we're just going to kind of drizzle in a little bit of this olive oil.
So you just throw enough in there to get the right consistency?
Yeah,
or
we're
you
just
kinda-
going for kind of this nice, we should have pretty smooth. We'll probably run that a little more, get the texture a little finer. We'll taste it. Maybe some salt, a little pepper. Probably throw in a few more of these pecans. And then we'll just run that till it's smooth, because that tastes really good. So we have our Romesco done, and then our dish is actually pretty close to being done as well. We have our octopus. Like I said before, it can be very salty, so we're not gonna salt it again. We've already cooked it like that. We're gonna touch a little bit of black pepper on it. We're gonna go over to the hottest part of the grill, get a little char on this,
Okay.
and then we're gonna take those potatoes off.
Should I hold the grate up a little bit, or is
The oil on the octopus ought to be fine.
Something you never had on this grate before.
No, I know.
These potatoes have some nice crustiness from the grill now. And don't be afraid to get some char on the octopus. That's fantastic flavor development. It's caramelization of proteins and all that.
So is this a dish that you cook at your restaurant?
So we've had octopus on the menu at Meribo since we opened, but the preparation changes seasonally with our menu.
Okay.
So currently we do an octopus dish that has like a butterbean puree and hot sausage and herb salad. We had, in the summer, we had a nice like fresh corn and tomato salad with it. It just kind of changes up based on, what we're feeling. But I love octopus. I think it's an underutilized protein.
And it's pretty inexpensive.
It is inexpensive. I mean, you could certainly, if you're cooking for you and somebody else, you could get like probably an octopus for $10. That would feed both of you. And if you're over in Spain or any coastal regions of Europe, you're going to eat a lot of this. It's very common over there, and you're going to often see it hit a grill just because it's such a complimentary way to do it. There's not a lot of better ways. We use cast iron at the restaurant because we don't have a grill there, but we want to get it smoking hot still, so that it still gets some of those charred notes. These pieces that are a little bigger will let it touch longer.
How long has Meribo been open?
We've been open since June of 2016. It's June 28, 2016, so a little over a year and a half.
Did he say it right?
I did.
I did. I stood here for 5 minutes.
I'm so
standing in my
impressed.
Yeah, it's like your cousin Marie and Bo.
Now we can actually go over here and put.
Took me a minute to recognize. He said it right.
So
I think we're all just a little surprised.
You're right.
we'll take a plate, and we're basically going to make kind of like a potato salad, but no mayonnaise and stuff. We're going to do like a Spanish style potato salad. We're going to take our potatoes, we're going to take a few little nice grape tomatoes, toss them in there for some freshness because we got a lot of heavy flavors going on in the dish.
Can everybody hear all right? We have some rain, so we have
Yeah, let us know
Get
if
some
y'all can
background
still
noise.
hear all right with the rain.
Okay. Now we have a couple different olives here. We have some really beautiful Spanish salt cured olives. So it's a little drier, not as acidic, just a really pungent, salty flavor that I think goes great with the octopus and also with potatoes. So just kind of a rough cut on those. We've already pitted them.
Smells really good.
And then a few Kalamata olives. Not Spanish, Greek, but really delicious. And I think also goes well. You're going to see a lot of these common flavors all across the Mediterranean though.
Okay.
So. All right. And then touch more olive oil. We're going to get an ingredient I love to use with potatoes and a lot of things like this. Just a little bit of smoked paprika. You don't need much. And then we're going to take a few capers.
I love capers. Do you need a spoon?
No, this is good.
Okay.
We're just going to dump a few out in here. A few capers. We're going to toss the juice. And then a little bit of fresh parsley. Just a rough chop on that as well. Okay, so now take some of our Romesco sauce here. Throw that on the bottom. And you could serve this on the side, but restaurant chefs have a hard time not trying to make everything pretty.
Right.
So, a little pile of our olive and potato salad here. It's actually kind of cool. The potatoes have a little purple tinge to them. They almost look like the octopus does.
Right.
And then
Without
I'm
the
going to take some of our grilled octopus.
That looks delicious.
Right.
A little bit more of this right here.
Ah.
And then a lot of times in Spain, you'll just kind of get a little drizzle of good olive oil over the top of everything. So that's
Marcus Moore said take notes on plating.
that's
Dave.
our grilled.
I know. That's been something I've been practicing on.
This is our grilled
plating.
Spanish octopus with a little
Nice.
Romesco
It's
sauce
beautiful.
That's
and
beautiful.
some potato salad.
You want to get the pictures? Yeah, of course. Of course.
So what are we doing with the?
Next thing we're going to do is some mussels, and we're kind of going to take a lot of the same flavor profiles and incorporate them into that. So another thing that you might not see done often on a grill are some mussels, but I think that they really work well. We just need to steam it. So let's go ahead and get this pan on there and get it warmed up.
All this action happening, y'all. Behind the scenes action.
So mussels are very fast. So we're going to get everything ready to go first. We are going to grill some nice cured Spanish chorizo. You can get a little char and smoke flavor on this. We're going to cut some planks actually. If you've ever seen Spanish chorizo and a Mexican chorizo, as Mexican chorizo is typically not cooked when you get it. It's going to be like a raw sausage you can cook, and Spanish chorizo is going to be like this. It's going to be cured already. Both still very high in fat, so we want to be careful not to get a bunch of flare-ups with this. We'll probably put this probably a little bit off the main heat.
Right.
But you do want to get some char and color on that. It's going to render some of the fat out. It's going to be really good.
Hot a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And it's going to be really nice flavor when we do those mussels. We're going to take a little bit of fennel. I love fennel. It's one of my favorite ingredients. It's got kind of an anise flavor. If you don't like fennel, you could use an onion or something right here. Not the biggest deal to sub that out. And we're just going to kind of, it has a little root in here we're going to cut out.
Okay.
That piece stays pretty tough. And then we're just going to kind of cut some thin.
It's a pretty tough vegetable.
Yeah, it's pretty fibrous.
Kinda like cabbage.
A little bit. It's in the same family as like onions and all that. It's very aromatic. It's great with seafood. It does have, it's excellent grilled or roasted. It gets a nice, really nice sweetness to it when you grill or roast it. We just need a little bit of that for our aromatics. We're gonna crush a few cloves of garlic. We certainly don't need to chop them up too small. We really just want to perfume our oil.
Right.
We already went through our mussels, by the way. These are Prince Edward Island mussels, right around northeast and all that. Went through. There's a little beard on these that they use to grab onto rocks and stuff. We pulled those out. That's not very tasty. We went through and made sure that they were all closed to make sure that they were still alive.
Okay.
If they're open, that means that they're dead. You don't want to eat that. You want to toss those. So we already went through
By
these and
open,
checked them all.
how much open?
So if they're open and you pinch it shut and it doesn't close up and stay shut, it's dead.
Okay.
If it's open, it can be open this wide. You pinch it shut. If it stays shut, that means it was just open for a minute.
Okay.
It woke up. It's going to tighten back up. So we're going to go over to our pot. We're going to bring some of our aromatics over there with us. You want to grab the olive oil for me? All right. So this is getting nice and hot. You can see our chorizo is rendering some of that fat out and bubbling, right? It's gonna really develop some flavor there. All right, so we're gonna go a healthy dose of olive oil in the bottom of our pot, and the pan's really nice and hot. That's great. We're gonna throw our garlic in and the chili flake into the oil. It's one of the best smells in the world. And then we're gonna go right in with this fennel so our garlic and stuff doesn't burn. And then right away, we're gonna go in with these mussels. And this is gonna happen pretty quick. Okay? You should smell a lot of great flavor going on. We're gonna hit this with some white wine. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this chorizo off. We're gonna cut this up and add it back in just a second. So we add our white wine, and then we're gonna add a little bit of seafood stock. We make our own at the restaurant,
Right.
but if you're not cutting up a lot of fish and stuff, just buy a good seafood stock. Ideally a low sodium one. We're gonna add about a cup. So we bought a 2-pound bag of mussels.
Okay.
That's a pretty nice portion for a few people. And then we're gonna go ahead and put a lid on this so they can steam. And then really, mussels are done when they start to open up. So we probably have 3 or 4 minutes or so till those are getting close.
Do you want to have this open?
I'll
And
tell you
then
what,
close
let's do that.
so you can
Let's do
smoke?
that. Get a little smoke in there. Good call. So we'll leave that open. Now we're gonna get back over here. We're gonna cut up some of this chorizo so that we can get that into that broth. And now we're gonna cut it up a little smaller. We didn't cut it up too small before. We didn't want it falling through the grill.
Right.
Wanted to be able to control it.
That smells really good too.
It smells so good.
Oh yeah. So using ingredients like this is going to do some of the work for us. You get a really flavorful ingredient to add to something. It's going to bring a lot of punch to the dish.
Oh, do you have an aunt named Lynn Porter?
I do.
She said good morning to her favorite niece, Cassidy.
Yeah, that's my daddy's sister.
So, where did you grow up?
So I was born and raised in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
My family, all from like Opelousas, Lafayette area. So I grew up with a lot of Cajun, Creole kind of food. You know, very much like whole animal, farm to table. My uncle owns a small butcher shop in Washington, Louisiana.
Right.
I grew up watching him make tasso and sausage and andouille and boudin, and then, you know, raised with always at my granny's house for holidays. She always kept a big garden, and it was, you know, what are we eating with dinner? Whatever's growing, so
Right.
whatever's seasonal. And when I was young, I didn't really think about it much. Kind of took it for granted.
Right.
Go back over, throw this chorizo in here now, and our mussels are opening up pretty well. We're close. We're not far. We're gonna make. We got a couple left that we're still gonna let go. touch longer, but we are real close on these. And you know, I love cooking from a young age. Always fascinated by it. With mussels, I always love to serve some grilled bread with it. We have our olive oil over here, so we'll hit it. We can actually probably take, I'm gonna use these gloves, huh?
There you go. Those are some good gloves right there.
We're gonna get this pot off the grill. Smells fantastic.
Oh wow. Joe, ace.
Just get a little bit of oil in our bread here and go directly on the hot part of the grill and get some char on it. I love charred and burnt flavors. It's gonna happen quickly, but it's gonna give, our grill's already real hot, so this is gonna, like I said, happen real fast.
So if you know quickly, we are being asked, what is your favorite dish to eat?
My favorite dish to eat, that's tough for me, but it changes, right, as things go on. Currently, I'm kind of obsessed with eating really great Japanese food. I like the culture over there. It's like an obsessive culture with one dish. So like there'll be a chef who his whole life will work on making this one type of noodles his whole life. And we don't really have that over here.
Right.
You know, people don't want to be that focused or specialized because it can get old. Well, they're down to do one thing forever, and so you get just versions of a dish that have been perfected for like 10 generations of a family. And so that's a cool thing.
Wow.
That you don't see a lot of in the entire Western world, really. So we have this beautiful grilled bread now, and then no, we're actually going to use, I'm going to go right back into this bowl in a second. I do
You
want
want
to
another
note
cotton ball?
that I like to salt the bread when it comes off a little bit. I like to salt most things. Most stuff doesn't come. I grew up watching Emerald, too, cooking a lot, and he used to say this quote. He would say about pretty much anything. Like, I don't know where you get your pork chops. Where I get mine, they don't come seasoned. Or whatever. And then he would say, you want to season both sides because you don't want any one-sided tasting
Right.
food.
That's true.
And actually, another tattoo is a little Morton Salt Girl to remind me to season everything. If it's not seasoned right, it doesn't. You know, you're not doing it. So, all right, we are ready. There she is. Morticia. All right, so we have these mussels here, and I like to serve mussels in a big bowl.
Whoop, you need to be Stommer.
Yeah. And then so we're gonna go in.
Oh my God. Why am I behind the camera?
So we can eat.
You're gonna have to fucking...
We have this really flavorful broth, and then I like to hit it with some of these fennel fronds, just the stuff off the top of the fennel, and some other fresh herbs. And then just go here with our grilled crusty bread. And so two kind of
Quick,
classic Spanish dishes.
classy.
Neither of them took any time, with the exception of the prep on the octopus, cooking that before. But I mean, you could do that, and you could have guests over, or just even like a weeknight dinner. Certainly with the mussels.
No, right.
You know, I mean, that's, you fire up the grill, you're talking 8-9 minutes done.
Right.
You know, and that's us cutting up everything, grilling everything from scratch. So super easy. You know, awesome stuff for grill. And I think you'll notice, you will taste the difference if you had this on a stove versus doing it on the grill. You're gonna get the smoke.
Right.
You're gonna get those charred flavors that are very hard to accomplish
Yeah.
on in an indoor kitchen. You
I
know,
don't even
so,
cook on my stove at all.
oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's grill's a versatile thing. I grew up a lot cooking on. We did a lot of cooking outside and
Right.
grilling, and so you know, as a young boy already, fire's like fascinating. And then when you love to cook, it's even more so, because
Right.
then you're using it to like do something you really like to do. So, I mean, I remember cooking over campfires and grills and all
Right.
that my whole life. So,
So were there any big cooks in your family?
Not really. My granny was always a great cook in the way that she's Depression era, you know, born and raised, and so very thrifty, and so she would always cook like less expensive cuts of meat,
Right.
but they were always delicious. Like I never remember eating a steak at her house or something like that. It was like, you know, 7 steaks that are like a pork shoulder blade steak or something that,
Right.
you know, typically very inexpensive cut, and she would cook it a long time and make, you know, we ate a lot of rice and gravy, stuff like that. But I remember eating a lot of cuts of meat, like, you know, I grew up eating like liver and stuff, and or like beef tongue, and we didn't really know what it was, but it was tasty.
I like
and
tongue.
she was
I
very
like
good
liver.
at cooking it. My mom, admittedly, not a very great cook, doesn't really enjoy cooking, but she cooks 4 or 5 things really well.
Right.
And so I grew up watching her cook those. And then my dad actually cooked a lot of, he learned from my granny a lot of like the, I guess like the Cajun classics. Like
Right.
the gumbo was like her family's gumbo recipe.
Right.
Etouffee, he makes the best etouffee still I've ever had. You know, a few other things like that, like fricassees and just kind of Cajun comfort food. And then the rest was just me picking it up, you know, being very interested in it, wanting to learn about the culture of our food and cooking, and you know, just being excited to go buy a new ingredient and try to cook it. And I've made a lot of things that aren't good over the years. You know, you gotta.
That's how you learn.
Before there was the internet, you had to just like guess how to cook stuff.
Right.
Unless you had cookbooks, you know, or things like that. So, you know, it's been a fun learning curve. And then opening Meribo a year and a half ago, that was really our first push into. As you can tell, I don't look very Italian.
I was thinking about
my
that.
first push into Italian food. But what's great about Italian food is that it is, to say Italian food at all is very generic, because it's super regional, right? Sicilian food is not anything like food from Tuscany. They're using different ingredients. They're using different proteins. They're eating a lot less seafood in North Italy. You know, a lot more grains, different things like that. And so it's very similar to stuff down here. We like to think at Meribo, if an Italian chef was dropped off in Covington, Louisiana, what type of food would he cook? And that's what we're trying to do. So we want to utilize local ingredients, work with local farmers. Instead of importing a lot of things from Italy, can we find a suitable substitute here that would still do the dish justice? And so our food is oftentimes, it's a Italian classic that we kind of reinvent through using Southern ingredients, or it's a dish that I grew up with that we kind of reinvent into an Italian kind of dish. My personal favorite right now on the menu, as far as that is concerned, we do a sweet potato gnocchi. So when I was growing up, they used to sell, I don't know if they still do, but they're like these little sweet potato patties.
Okay.
And they're super easy. They're already cooked sweet potato, and my mom would put them in a pan with like butter, sugar, and cinnamon, and we'd have that with like rice and gravy. And usually we'd have like black eyed peas or navy beans or something, and it would be some cut of meat, gravy, those little sweet potato cakes. So we basically, the idea was to make those into gnocchi, like a little sweet potato dumpling. And then we do a pork neck bone ragu. So we braise pork neck bones for a long time, pull all the meat off of them, and that's like the gravy component. And then we actually fry black eyed peas till they're crispy, and that goes on top for like a textural and flavor component. And when you take a bite of it, it tastes just like the dish I would eat when I was a kid. But when you look at it, it's an Italian gnocchi with like a gremolata on top. And so, you know, that's kind of fun stuff for us to do. That,
cool.
you
That
know, it
sounds really good,
tastes like what we grew up eating, but it looks like an Italian dish, and it is an Italian dish because we're just using, you know, they would use a potato that's native to there. We're using a potato that's native to here. And it's really the same thing.
So, how did you get on Chopped?
So Chopped was interesting. They put a thing on Facebook that they were casting in the Baton Rouge and New Orleans area, and I must have got tagged in it by everybody that knew me. And so we sat down one night and filled out, it's like a 2-page, 3-page online thing asking you a bunch of questions and about like your history and what kind of food you like to cook and this and that. And then they get back to you. I guess they emailed me and asked if they could set up a phone call. What?
It was like October that you filled it out.
Yeah, filled it out in October, and then I think maybe like early December or so, I got an email back saying like, hey, we loved your application. We'd like to set up a phone interview. So 45-minute phone call. Then they were like, hey, that went great. We'd like to pass you up the line. Next phone call, another 45-minute one. a couple of Skype interviews,
Right.
and then after that, they say, listen, you made it to this point, we want to come down and shoot the intro. You're still not technically on the show, but we're going to come in, and then we're going to make basically a little mini pilot for you, and that'll go before the executive producers,
Right.
and then they'll decide if they want you to be on the show. So they came and filmed that at Meribo and Pelican House. I got them to come to both places, and then we did, that was early January. And then on my birthday, January 28th, I was actually in Philadelphia.
It's my daughter's birthday.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually in Philadelphia, and I got a call from one of the casting people. They're like, hey, we want you to know you're going to be on Chopped. And they're like, it's going to be the Alton Brown Challenge. The
Right.
theme is the food, the science and technique of cooking.
Right.
And I was like, man, that's the coolest thing ever. I grew up watching him, learning how to cook.
Right.
His show Good Eats was really influential for me because it was like the how of cooking and not
Right.
just following a recipe.
Right.
And so I learned a lot. And the science technique, that's a big deal for me too, because you know I feel that I focus a lot on technique and like how and why we do dishes. And so, and they told me my theme for my first episode was going to be smoke and smoking. And I was like, well, that's great. We smoke stuff all the time
Right.
at both places. I grew up around that. So did a little more studying and mostly just practiced desserts because I'm not a pastry chef.
Right.
Memorized some dessert recipes, worked on that, and then we actually filmed on Valentine's Day. So
Okay.
only 2 weeks later, we're in New York, filmed.
Sun
Won
up
the first.
to sundown.
What?
Sun up to sundown.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Wow.
So the casting, like the call in the morning was 7 a.m.
Right.
to be across the street from the studio, and then I left at 10 o'clock that night.
Wow.
So, and that's to shoot an hour and 20 minutes of cooking. So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on. But super cool experience. Won that one, and then moved on. We shot the final episode on that Friday. So they had 16 chefs. They filmed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Wow.
and then the 4 winners filmed on Friday. And Friday was the same deal. 7 a.m. left at 10. Unfortunately, got chopped in the final round of the finale. This close to 50
Right.
grand and winning, being the Chop grand champion. But it was really cool. We got to work with some cool ingredients.
Right.
Met some guest judges that I was big fans of.
Right.
Hugh Atchison is a chef out of it's actually a Canadian guy, but he cooks southern food in like the Georgia area.
Okay.
And I got to meet him. And then Manit Chauhan was one of the judges, Alex Mornicelli, and then a guy named Sean Mendez was the other judge, and he's a 2 Michelin starred chef in New York. He's got a couple restaurants there, and so cooking for those guys was exciting. And to get on the TV show, there's maybe 30 seconds of interaction between you and the judges,
Right.
but in real life, there's like 5 minutes with each judge on each of your dishes, so you get a chance to talk and get genuine feedback and see what they think, which is a cool experience,
Right.
to be able to do that. So.
There's a lot of pressure.
Everybody asked that. What was the pressure, a time frame? The timing wasn't too bad, honestly. In a restaurant, you're always on a time clock. From the moment you walk in, you write your pub list for the day. You know that there's time constraints and you're working towards them. And then during the middle of dinner service, if you've got, you want 10-minute ticket times, then you're fighting for 10-minute ticket times.
Right.
20, whatever it is. I think the biggest thing was just not trying to do too much, just being focused. So I've been a fan of the show for a long time, always watched it, and I would always watch it, I'd be like screaming at the TV, like, what are they doing? What are they trying to cook that in 20 minutes? You can't do that. So just knowing what you're capable of in a certain amount of time, and editing yourself a little bit, you have 100 ideas, because there's no constraints. You just have 4 ingredients and a full pantry, and you worse stuff all the time.
Right.
You overcooked your piece of meat.
Right.
In your restaurant, how often you overcook proteins? Almost never. Or if you
Right.
do, you don't send it out.
Right.
And so people go home for that all the time because they just let one thing that they're normally really good at get messed up because they were focused on too much other stuff.
Yeah, too much other stuff.
It's a game just as much as it is cooking.
Right.
And but it was a lot of fun because as a chef, you compete at a macro level with other chefs. You look at other people's restaurants and you see what they're doing. That's kind of just competition in a
Chicken
sense.
competition.
But this is head to head. I haven't competed like that since high school sports. So it was a
Right.
lot of fun. You have the same basket, the same time constraints, and let's see who can cook and who's going home. And so that was a lot of fun. It was intense, and You know, it was a cool experience. Got to cook in some really good chefs. So yeah, I mean, it was fun. I would do it again. I didn't want to do it again at the beginning, right when I lost. I was like, they actually asked me like, would you be interested in doing maybe like Beat Bobby Flay or something like that? And I was like, no, I don't ever want to be on TV again. I'm over it. I don't ever want to do food TV again. But no, it was fun. You know, at that moment, I just wanted to like go have some beers and forget about the loss. But it was a good time.
Did that close your door for beating Bobby Flay?
I don't know, maybe not.
Because we just did an interview with Hugh Mangum, and he's friends with Bobby Flay.
Yeah, I don't know.
And actually, he knew who you were.
Okay, well, cool.
Very
Cool.
cool.
Yeah.
He just can't seem to come up with a dish yet.
Yeah,
Eggs is like his thing, but like you can't
Yeah,
cook
well,
eggs.
the deal is, I looked at the Beat Bobby Flay thing, and it's been such a successful show that there's been so many people on there that coming up with a signature dish that hasn't already been done or that fits in that time constraint is tough. I cook a lot of food that is very like slow, like they have 45 minutes. So I do a lot of braises and a lot of like I said, a lot of like less quality cuts and like cheaper things that need time and attention to get them to really shine. And so those are tough to do in a 45-minute time frame. You know, so like I love cooking, you know, like I said, like maybe I was gonna do some sort of like fricassee or like a coubillon or something, but that's a 3-hour dish, 4-hour dish. You can't do that in 45 minutes. And people have tried to do things like that on TV before. You'll see a guy on Chop, he's like, I'm gonna make a gumbo in 30 minutes.
Right.
And you're like, you're going home.
That's
So I'm not gonna call something my signature dish and not have enough time to do it, you know. So, but no, I mean, if there was a possibility, something like that, yeah, I'd be interested in it. Because it's fun, first of all, and second of all, it's, you know, obviously a great way to get your name out and your product out and get people to come try stuff that maybe they haven't heard of you before. So Chop did a lot of that. We got a lot of people that came in that saw us on TV.
We had lots of sweet ladies come up and be like, "Oh my God, Gavin!" Like run across the restaurant.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Look at the little smile
Yeah,
on
it
his face.
has helped the restaurant some.
And it's his favorite. It's like, you know, like 50s, 60s ladies, and they're like, "Ah!"
Yeah, it was fun.
Wait, I'm a
Like,
56.
I was going to say.
I was walking through Rouse's the other day, and a lady was just like, "Hey, Gavin, how you doing?" And I was like, you know, in this business, you're supposed to remember people, and I'm like, oh man, I have no idea who this lady is. And she's like, don't worry, you shouldn't know who I am. I just saw you on TV. And I was like, oh good, because like I felt terrible that you're sitting here, like you know my name and I've never seen you before. She's like, no, but we're coming to your restaurant in a few days. I mean, we're just down the street. And so that's been cool. I got to meet a lot of people like that. And honestly, it's cool. A lot of kids, like when I was young and like, I mean, I've been knowing I wanted to open a restaurant since I was 7 years old. I've been telling people that, like, I'm gonna be a chef since I was a little kid. And there's a lot of kids that have that same deal now. So like, we did a couple of events in Baton Rouge, and there'd be kids come up like, hey, is there any, or their parents, the kids are too like scared to ask, like, is there any way my kid could take a picture with you? They're really into cooking, and I thought that was one of the coolest parts really cool. Because when I was growing up, like, there was like 5 chefs that you could like think were awesome on TV, and now there's a bunch that you could be, you know, and you could have a chance to like meet one. Like, you know, I was never gonna bump into Emerald at like a picnic thing, and these kids get to see somebody on TV that is from where they're from, you know, growing up doing the same kind of stuff that they want to see themselves doing. So that was cool. Met a lot of kids like that. So, and then there's actually a girl in Mandeville who won Chopped Kids. Or Chopped Juniors, I forget what it's called, but we're actually
Get her on the show.
Yeah, we're looking we're actually
so
looking to do
sweet.
something together. We've done a few events around here, and she'll be like at the table next to us cooking. She usually partners up with a restaurant, so she was partnered up with forget who last time, maybe like Gallagher's or somebody like that. But you know, she'll partner up and help them put together a dish, and she's a talented young girl. I think her name's Alicia Patillo.
How old is she?
13?
Yeah,
13 or 14?
Wow.
Yeah.
She's
I mean,
young and she's
like
very sweet.
way more knowledgeable about food than I was when I was that age. So cool.
I could make peanut butter and jelly.
Right.
Yeah.
Bologna.
I mean, I was cooking, but you know, there wasn't the resources you have now, and nobody. Until I became a chef, my parents were telling me not to do it. It wasn't something that people viewed as like a good job. You know, like that, or they knew it was hard work, and it is hard work. But like, you know, when I told my parents I was dropping out of college to go to culinary school, which ended up not going to culinary school, I just dropped out of college. They were like, we don't know if that's the best idea. I was like, well, that's what I'm doing.
Right.
So they support it now. They're my biggest fans.
That's cool.
Yeah, man, it's cooking is just a really cool way to connect with people.
Yeah.
You know, this is one thing that everybody eats, so everybody has it in common. You know.
So Meribo, when did you win Chopped? What day? Or no?
It
when did
aired in November.
October.
October and November.
October, November.
Because-
We filmed in February, yeah.
That was the first restaurant when I moved from New Orleans to Covington. That was the first place, and it was right after you won.
Okay.
So yeah,
Oh, very
as soon as I
cool.
walked in, I don't know, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what was going on, and then the waitress told me. I said, "Oh, well, that's cool." And yeah, so I want to try the food.
Yeah, man,
Yes.
let's do it. You got some.
Well, do you want to announce our people first, or you want to try the food first?
All right, we'll announce the people. All right, so
All
look.
right, so, since we're talking about chop,
For those who do not know, we've been doing a grill beef chop challenge, and it's been going on for. We give 2 weeks to do the dish, video it, and send it in. So the very first round, we chose 5 winners, and I do not have all their names in front of me, but so we took those 5 winners, we gave them another challenge, and it was ground beef, cumin, dry white wine, halloumi cheese, and zucchini. And so those 5 people sent in their videos, and this is really no bullshit. It was extremely tough to figure out who won, and then it just dawned on me last night that I had to go back to the original rules, which were the end result. And like the very first round, every single one of the 5 winners, I looked at what they did, and I was craving the food. It looked so good on video. And then the second round, everybody did just as good of a job, but there were 2 people who did better.
everybody up their game knows.
I know everybody did up the game because we showed everybody else's video.
Okay.
So
The
then,
first round, yeah.
and actually there were people intimidated at that point.
Right.
And it's going to be surprising. The most intimidated one, I think did the best. So we'll start off with the first winner was Todd Kern.
I thought we were going to let Gavin do
Oh,
it.
you're all right.
So actually, you can announce the second one. But Todd Kern, he rocked it out. Todd Kern rocks everything out. So
And then the other finalist for the Grill Beast Chop Challenge is Chad Keller.
Yes,
Keller.
Chad Keller.
Yay, Chad.
Woo! So,
Both Todd and Chad had dishes that like you would go to a restaurant and sit down and eat.
yep.
That's
Yep,
fantastic.
they were just amazing. So, we're going to announce tomorrow on a live feed what the last round's going to be. We honestly have no clue what it is right this second. We don't know if it's going to be a dessert like the real, but we haven't really been following the whole chop thing anyway.
Gavin might have some input.
All right, maybe Gavin will come on.
Maybe I'll pick an ingredient for you.
There you
right.
go. We'd love
Right.
that.
So, but next Sunday I'm going to do I usually would have done my version of the chop challenge today, but we did this. It's way better. So I'm going to do my version of the chop challenge next Sunday, 10 a.m. Central Time. We are going to eat.
You're gonna eat. I'm gonna
And
watch you.
Does
eat with
anybody
the
have any
camera.
questions for me?
And does
or
anybody
Gavin?
have any more questions? Everybody's just congratulations. Eat. Invest in a tripod, which I have. Thank you very much. I'd rather hold it. I
right,
prefer
so,
to hold it. All right.
Anyway, we're starting to ramble. That
Yep.
means it's time to
Time
go.
to eat.
And
All right. Get some of that.
I am. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you gotta come
Yeah.
feed me. Oh,
Get you some of that. Your little Romesco.
I can't eat a piece that big.
Yeah, you can.
I knew it was coming.
Wow. This is like really, really good.
Yeah.
Really is.
You know it's good when everybody's quiet.
Yeah.
John, yeah, we're gonna do a mashup of the videos.
Yeah, that's really good.
All right, it's time to sign off so the rest of us can
hold
leave
on.
the common folk.
Some of that smoke. Well, cool.
They're good. Guys are really good. I don't know where y'all's stuff is at.
Look, Gavin's drinking an honorary pink drink.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm normally cooking brunch right now, so it's only fitting to have a little brunch.
There you go.
brunch
All right, Gavin stepped out.
Gavin
and,
does have a Facebook page, right?
Yep,
We
Facebook.
do. You can check us out. Meribo pizza.com is our website. You can check us out on Meribo Pizza on Instagram. We're not just pizza, by the way. We do pizza, pasta,
No.
all kind of other stuff.
I had the best Brussels sprouts there yesterday that I've ever had
Right.
in my entire life.
Right, it's a
get that a
pizza
lot.
place. It's a pizza place that just gave me the best pork belly I ever had.
Right.
Well, I appreciate
So,
it.
I mean, it's not, to me, it's not a pizza place, but we did go there for pizza.
Because it was National Pizza Day.
But yeah, so go to all Gavin's social, like all his stuff, follow him, and I'm sure he'll be on again, I guess.
Yeah, I'd love
Yeah.
to, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Love
Yeah,
being
man.
on today. Had
Thanks
a lot
a lot.
of
Well,
fun.
Gavin,
appreciate it.
before we
Thank you.
go, can you tell us, are you a grill beast?
Y'all got to tell me. Y'all just
So,
judge
you-
them.
you-
actually, no, you are, man. So
You
what
are.
we do in our group, thanks for reminding me. You know, like my name's David Johnson, and I'm a grill beast.
Okay, awesome. Well, my name's Gavin Jobe, and now I'm a grill beast.
Woohoo!
Awesome.
All right,
Hi,
thanks a
y'all.
lot for showing up, everybody. Truly, I'm very
Congratulations
honored
to
that you
the
did. We'll
congratulations
see
to
you all
the
next
winners.
Sunday.
All right, peace out.